This is a breaking news JSNIP4 alert, webbot alert. I am going to play two video clips recorded very recently. One of them is a news channel, local news channel to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And they originally, not on the news thing, but originally there were some high tides over by Fort Lauderdale. And from what I've read and understood so far, they said, well, that was because Hurricane Sandy came in, and while Hurricane Sandy was coming by, it caused some little bit of extra tides to come in. It's been 30 days now, roughly, since Hurricane Sandy came in. Didn't even hit Florida, obviously. It just kind of went way out there in the Atlantic. The tides have come way in, destroyed the entire Fort Lauderdale beach, destroyed the sidewalk. The beach is gone, and the road is the only thing left. And they had declared an emergency to get a whole bunch of these barriers to be put up in the middle of the night, fairly recently, I guess, because these two stories are very new. It has been 30 days since Sandy came by, and this lady in the news mentioned something about being, when inquiring, they were told that it was something to do with tidal, an abnormal tidal surge, something. And as soon as I heard that, I didn't even have to hear that. As soon as I saw the video, and then the other video, which is just a guy taking it with his video camera or phone or something, shows, what they're talking about. I saw immediately in my head, webbot, coastal event, not the global coastal event, but rising tides that do not subside. They do not go away. And I opened up a couple of different webbot reports very quickly, searched for the word tide or tidal, and found some things to write down on my little document that I'm going to read you. So, first I'm going to start with the video. First I will start with the videos, and then I will come back and comment.
That is true, Calvin. That's in part because of these anticipated tidal patterns. Scott is going to have more on that in a moment, but first, another live look at this emergency effort. These crews are working fast to establish this wall of concrete to shield A1A, and that is because the ocean is moving even faster. Parts of the sidewalk here collapsing in just the past few hours.
This is a mind blower.
The eastern edge of A1A is now in the Atlantic.
It makes people turn around and look twice.
The seawall, palm trees, and sidewalks along this 4-block stretch in Fort Lauderdale gone.
The shower stalls are down, your parking meter's gone.
The foundation of a street light at Northeast 16th Court is now surrounded by white surf, water lapping the exposed wires.
It just came down quick, fast. Water just kept on coming, the waves just knocked it all down.
You can see how the ocean is literally consuming A1A.
We actually heard the road falling. We heard it fall into the ocean. And I said, something went, and we heard it again.
To give you a sense of how fast this is happening, crews on the scene tell me this section of sidewalk collapsed in just the past 2 hours.
It's amazing, the power of the ocean. Unreal. I'm from Boston, and I've lived through northeasters, but I have never seen anything like this.
For perspective, this Google Earth satellite picture shows you what this area looked like before Superstorm Sandy.
I've watched it day by day get worse, and yesterday we had 3 palm trees out here. This morning we have none.
I think Mother Nature is taking her stuff back.
I think the beach is gone.
Gone for good.
For good, yeah.
City officials tell us today's dramatic events are the result of high tides paired with strong swells. Within hours, the Florida Department of Transportation declared an emergency, calling in 2,500 feet of concrete barriers to protect what's left. But some are convinced the ocean and her relentless waves will win this round, making this stretch of A1A a footnote in South Florida history.
We have to appreciate what we have down here, because we may not have it forever.
And of course, these crews are going to be working overnight, part of a team effort to make sure this road does stay here forever. Now, you may notice that traffic is moving smoothly. That's because police made it to the 2 southbound lanes are open to one way for drivers moving in both directions. What is uncertain tonight is when the northbound lanes will open. We saw crews out here. They're inspecting, surveying, trying to make sure it's safe, worried that over time it too may end up in the ocean. Calvin?
So impressive out there. Christina Vasquez live for us.
Fort Lauderdale Beach Boulevard, A1A, November 23rd, the day after Thanksgiving, almost a month after Hurricane Sandy. The ocean has eroded to the point of taking out the sidewalks and the wall. The beach wall is completely gone. All gone. Say goodbye to Fort Lauderdale Beach. That's my roommate Jeff, by the way, taking pictures. He missed the wave, but the wave didn't miss us. Wow. I guess it's time to go now. There's the sidewalk right there. No more sidewalk. Say bye-bye to Fort Lauderdale Beach. I want to know who's irresponsible for this. Somebody's not doing their job. Looks like they're all just standing around looking. That's what they get paid to do, isn't it?
Now that you've seen those videos, let me go ahead and read you two different WebBot reports. In the first thing I'm going to read you was from sometime in 2011, an early 2011 WebBot report. And then the next one was the actual latest WebBot report, which was from September of this year. Again, long before this title thing happened to Fort Lauderdale and Hurricane Sandy was even an imagination, figment of anyone's imagination. So here's the first one. And it's talking about the toroid, T-O-R-O-I-D changes. And those changes is talking about, like, to sum it up, we'll just call it kind of like the magnetic field of the Earth is doing some funky things, just to make things simple. Along with the other toroid changes within the Terra entity, which will produce the earthquakes and floods and radical wind storms and exceptional freezing or frozen solid land, there are very large areas of growth within the ocean's data subsets. Yes, many of these are in support of the lifting of the water to Yes, many of these are in support of the lifting of the water to the atmospheric rivers and coastal flooding and new climate weather patterns, including warming of odd coasts, but also the accretion patterns within the data are showing that oceanic alterations such as mineral composition and the new basin outline/boundaries will be reaching human consciousness this year. Now, it was talking 2011. Here we are in 2012, about to be 2013, and this is making a lot more sense than it did then. Again, I don't care about the date sometimes because it's what it's talking about that's more important. I know it's coming. Maybe it'll get it off and it'll come later. That'll be a good thing because I'll have more time to prepare. Anyways, let me continue reading because, again, the next one I'm going to read you was just from 2-3 months ago. The accrual rates, again in the data, the accrual rates for the oceans as a source of concerns for humans rises rapidly from mid-spring through the end of the year without appreciable slowing. The impacts of toroid changes will also be showing up in new and newly discovered ocean currents that will be distorting the coasts and causing tidal flooding. Button, so when I clear my throat, I can just hit the mute button and it won't bother you. Watch this. Sure. Okay, latest report. As a more or less predictable consequence of the planetary expansion, the data sets are forecasting that even as far as the current Arctic Circle coasts, so not just them, but even those included, will have excessive flooding, though it may likely take until December of 2013 before the process of bad tides, that's a key word in there, bad tides, becomes recognizable for what it is, a long-term water level change / distortion. Many of the inhabitable areas around the current Arctic Circle share the rugged coastline, those features that distinguish these areas from the more gently sloping equatorial beaches. This feature will be both enhanced as new islands tear themselves from the existing landmass, and a saving grace for the population in that inundations are described as minimal. In other areas, such as the coasts of northeastern North America and Pacific Northwest south of Alaska, the inundation levels are forecast as being severe at times over these next 2 decades. The data set suggests that a precursor flooding event will hit the Pacific coastlines as a tsunami in 2013. The data set has, again, when I give you a date, just pretend I didn't say it and I replace that specific date with soon for your own good. The data set has the data set has some indications for January, but not enough to be certain that this is more than a reflection of an increase in discussion about the potential for tsunami along the west coast of North America. There are many more data sets that accreted as model space is taken through summer and fall Northern Hemisphere 2013. In these cases, the data sets gain values that are positive for increasing water levels. As model space reaches about mid-July of 2013, a series of detail sets reflect the emergence of an Asian wrestler. Like Hulk Hogan? Asian wrestler. Didn't say like Hulk Hogan, but just so you know what the hell I'm talking about. Yes, wrestler. An Asian wrestler as a serious hero. This fellow of broad stature and deep roots apparently will act as a guide and lead several thousands of people to safety after a disaster occurs that is local to California, but may well be part of the global coastal event. Additional note, everything in 2013 is very deeply obscured by immediacy data sets that overwhelm the ability to track other data types. So it's probably tied to the global coastal event. He's not sure because the immediacy data sets have all this stuff in there, and it's kind of, skewing the picture of the longer term or slightly longer term than the immediacy or short term. I forget his order. It's like immediacy data or time frame, then short term, midterm, long term kind of thing. So there's so much in the immediacy data that it's skewing everything else. So that's interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And the immediacy data is, of course, what's fixing to happen, about to happen, that kind of thing. So anyways, it says, just so you understand, let me just kind of read that last part now that I've kind of said that. Everything in 2013 is very deeply obscured by immediacy data sets that overwhelm the ability to track other data types. That's his note. This wrestler is described as being old and gnarled, G-N-A-R-L-E-D, gnarled, or gnarled, for those challenged. The wrestler is described as being old and gnarled, but strong enough to aid several thousands in fording rivers where there used to be bridges, This last suggests earthquakes as the culprit or proximate cause of the need for a hero, but as there are so many earthquake references in the 2013 data, it is not possible to assign a probability that this is the actual cause of this incident. What makes this particular emergent hero guy most notable is that the data sets are indicating that his face and actions may well be one of the last nationally seen incidents for many decades. That's interesting. This is apparently due to satellites going wonky, or a technical term for not cooperating with humans, it says. The data sets are clear that the wrestler hero fellow does cooperate with humans, as he is described as taming the rowdy with gentleness that has gravity/heft beyond death. He then organizes the thousands by way of few words to build bridges of rubble to rescue injured and evacuate from the danger. In this data set are descriptors of a dead reporter who was found beneath debris, possibly a sign, not sure. A sign like a sign fell over on top of him, not sure. There's a little question mark there. The dead reporter is offering up some technical gear that produces virgin or pristine or pure images, again, his camcorder or camera, from the scene as humanity cares for itself, under the guidance of the old wrestler. The data sets indicate that people passing are going to be seen to stop and say words into the camera as they hope communications will happen. And interesting, it says camera gear. It doesn't actually say camera. Does that mean microphone that was with the camera, or both a microphone and camera? I don't know, but I think we're going to find out one of these days soon. So they're going to walk by and say something as they walk by into the camera and or microphone that the reporter had, as they hope communications will happen. In other words, if anyone can see this, if anyone can hear this, blah, blah, blah. The images are described as setting millions to lacrimonious wailing. I never heard of that word before, lacrimonious wailing. The images are described as setting millions of people to lacrimonious wailing, and to go on for hours as the thousands pass by. The descriptor sets for the evacuations shown on damaged TV are filled with hills and nearby hills, as well as other words for uneven ground in the area that is affected. Again, could be earthquake making an uneven ground. And it's interesting that the way this is starting to read to me is that this camera gear is still active and communicating with the satellite or with the home base, wherever, and the rest of us not dealing with that are going to watch this live. Not because the reporter's doing it, but because some bystander picked up his camera off his dead body and continued shooting a live stream to the rest of us. That's kind of what I feel like this is telling me. Okay, these data sets also include language describing a dazed populace that is dragging itself out of a horrific experience to find no assistance. It is this last set that contains most of the descriptions of the old Asian wrestler hero and his actions in putting people to work, caring for others, and the general welfare, of course. The continuing dangers are referenced in repeated sets that show a terrible few weeks in which the only/singular thing keeping it together for these traumatized people is the old man. Maybe that's the wrestler. It doesn't call him wrestler. Now it says the old man, calmly providing answers and focus for minds that are at risk of shattering under the assault of circumstances. The data sets are also explicit in that the old wrestler is able to recruit the children to organizing the adults by way of perseverance, even in dangers, and a refusal to accept complaint. It is imagined from the descriptors that our wrestler hero is used to leadership, and indeed there are indications that he is now a wealthy man, but also that from the instant he is called upon, that was his last thought of wealth. In the man's honor, we here at Half Past Human refer to him as Master Lu. Liu, a famous Taoist of the 5 Bushel League who reportedly obtained enlightenment and decided to become Bodhisattva, whatever, one who sticks around to help the rest of us. So again, I may have already read this particular part, because when these web arts come out, these reports, I always I do my own summary, because I can't read you the whole thing word for word. But this is probably one of those areas that I covered, because this is pretty important. And again, I quickly, before doing this video right now, just grabbed a couple different web art reports, searched through a few of them, found the keywords, copied and pasted, just so I could do this video. I can assure you, if I really took my time and went through all the web art reports that I have, which is probably over a dozen, and searched for multiple keywords related to rising water, tidal area, coastal area, I could have been here for at least an hour combining all that stuff to present to you, and then reading you a whole bunch of different web art reports basically telling you the same thing. It's not necessary. We all who have been listening to the webbots, or me because I listen to the webbots, we already know about these tidal problems on Mother Earth. And the fact that I live in Florida, and this is Fort Lauderdale, not nowhere near where I live. I'm way up a lot higher into the west side, actually. These tides have not subsided yet. It's been 30 days, and there's no sign that they're going anywhere. Even if they finally let up in another month, this has never happened before, and that tells me that something's happening to where the whole ocean's maybe sloshing, causing that tidal influx, and then they slosh the other way, and maybe when they slosh the other way, some other area of another continent will get their version of their flood. I don't know. What I do know is, I already told you recently, I'm going to Tennessee. I will be there in 2 months, and after seeing this today, man, am I glad that this is working out the way it's working out right now. So on that note, take this however you want to take it.